You okay over there?
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing me out of your computer.
Oh, I have it on.
That's okay.
It's done now.
It's funny. A lot of times, my callers to the radio show. This is great, by the way. I'm not gonna. I'm just the art of call screening is just a lost cause, and they've got producers doing other things now all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of times producers just take names, and so for the last 3 days, I've had callers ask for things that the receptionist should be giving them. Callers have gotten through like asking for,
And they put them on the air, and they actually just want to know, like, what's the program director's email address or something.
exactly. So it's fantastic. It tells me absolutely don't spend no time doing LinkedIn, which is why one of the reasons I'm trying to get the TikTok going. Lesson learned, Dallas. That they're little looking into shadow banning, which I always thought was kind of something that right wing people said just to have an excuse why they haven't gotten growth or reach. But no, TikTok does.
They didn't like me saying cuck, apparently.
They don't like you saying cuck. They translate it into cock. And you said it, especially yesterday's, 1 billion times. So we have 11 views on the TikTok. We actually do have more. So all it does is it limits who sees it to only people you follow.
Or who follow you.
Or something like that.
Okay, so if you want to see me say cuck 1 billion times on TikTok, then I guess you have to go and follow us on TikTok. So that's the moral of the story. Tom also made an Instagram account. Have you been posting there as well?
I have.
So you can follow.
You can say cuck on there.
Burn Barrel Podcast Instagram account, where you can also hear me say cuck, and our Twitter account, obviously, at Burn Barrel Pod.
Mm-hmm.
You should also listen to our food show, which comes out twice a week. I think we'll probably have a new one tomorrow on the food show. That's the All You Can Eat podcast at All You Can Eat Pod on Twitter. So lots of great things to listen to, places to listen. You also probably, if you're listening on the podcast feed after this, you probably noticed that there were some ads that played. And those are all really great ads and really great sponsors.
Yes.
But if you prefer to listen without ads, or you like to be in the live chat or things like that, you can join that at patreon.com/burnbarrel. So that's also an option if you so desire. If not, I mean, like, obviously all our sponsors are wonderful and we love them.
So this is what I'm getting. So it's weird. All the kids got sick, so they're like diseases flying around the house, and Alice and I are low crawling under them. But we're still sometimes here and there we get a little foggy. I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question for you. The LA Times did not endorse Kamala Harris. They did not endorse, famously, either candidate this time.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Cuban equivocated. Did you hear Mark Cuban today?
Yeah, he said that he is not, that Kamala Harris is not raising the capital gains tax, and if she were, he wouldn't be helping her.
Not only that, but he said something else, and let me see if I can find it because I played it earlier.
Because I heard that stuff, which obviously, I mean, like, I can't quite tell. Like, does he mean it's just not going to happen because it's politically, like, not going to make it through Congress for her to sign something like that? Or does he mean that he just doesn't know that she wants to raise the unrealized capital gains tax? Like, what? I don't know exactly what the point of all that is, except that he just feels like he ought to campaign for a Democrat because Trump is a bad person or something.
Well, today was new. He said on CNBC that if Trump were elected, he said, it's not the end of the day, the world, if Trump is elected. He said, if Trump was elected, I'd be happy to work with him on things. As a matter of fact, when he was elected last time, I helped him with a whole bunch of things. I think it had to do with, actually, immigration things. I forgot what it was that he said. So, in other words, if that's not a signal that, like, I don't have Trump derangement syndrome and I'm available, and keep your regulators away from me.
Yeah, so I feel like kind of what's happening here is I feel like this is sort of CYA from some of these people.
Is it CYA or hedging bets?
Well, yeah, kind of that. Like, they don't want to expose themselves if Trump is elected because they don't think Kamala's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not interested in going too hard on Team Kamala. You know, they're not all in on this effort. And like I think some of them, like I think Cuban kind of jumped in, although I mean obviously he's a lefty, but I think he kind of jumped in hardcore when it looked like she was a sure thing. Like people like to be with the winning team.
Yeah.
So a lot of people like get enthusiastic when it seems like Kamala is going to win, you know, when everybody's coconut pilled and there's all this enthusiasm and it's at the amazing, historic, incredible convention and the joy campaign and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, when she's embarrassing herself on TV every day and dropping in the polls and, you know, it's looking bad for her, I think a bunch of people start quietly or not so quietly, either like not endorsing, stepping back.
Yes. Well, and also,
kind of,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Not endorsing stepping back, but also, I think that also, of course, they're noticing the betting markets. They're also noticing that there's 13 days left to campaign, and where the Harris is deciding to provide, where she is primating, where they're primating, where they are prioritizing.
Okay.
where they're seeing where she is prioritizing. And also, I think that that if you're somebody like Mark Cuban, you don't like the attacks on Trump's McDonald's thing. That's small business.
Well, because Mark Cuban's a good like marketing business guy, and he knows that that's a win.
Well, yeah, and also like don't go after like don't get any shrapnel on the McDonald's business model. Franchise businesses in this country do a huge amount of hiring, are big money makers. Obviously, the whole model is ingenious of how it works. These are hardworking entrepreneurs who gobble up one franchise and then another and then another. I mean, this is like really, and
you know, while it should be emphasized that obviously like the race is extremely, extremely close. And if the polls are wrong in any direction, they're going to be wrong everywhere. It's going to be a electoral college bloodbath in either direction if the polls are even off by like a point, because it's essentially 50-50 in every swing state right now. That, you know, the things have been tightening and heading in a more Trump-friendly direction, polling numbers wise, for a period now of like 3 weeks to a month, and slowly, and it's still very close to 50-50, but this has been a slow but steady trend for a while now. And like we were worried about back in September with Kamala attempting to run out the clock and not doing any interviews, that there wasn't a lot of time because people were already voting like in mid-September in some states. So the possibility was real that she would be able to sort of take a knee and like hope that nothing happened. And
it's a great point.
But now it's really too late.
Well, right.
Now people are really in earnest voting. In almost every state, I think there's early and mail-in voting happening right now. Your chance, like you said, 13 days left, but a lot of people are going to have voted by 13 days from now. So it's a lot less than 13 days
And many
left.
indications are, just on day one, that the turnout for Trump has been huge for this early voting.
I mean, I think, so it's complicated. And early voting is weird, and we don't have a lot of good data on it because a lot of places didn't have very much of it prior to 2020. And 2020 was a weird year because of COVID, obviously. So there was probably more mail-in voting and stuff than previous years. And then 2022 was obviously not a presidential year. So the turnout is going to be really different. I think what's very hard for people doing modeling is that historically lower turnout has been better for Republicans. And that's not the case with Trump. One of the reasons why maybe we saw what we did in 2022 and the red wave never materialized was that people are used to thinking of a midterm election electorate being redder than a presidential election electorate because it's lower turnout, right? So it's the higher propensity voters, more informed voters. Whereas where Trump really does better actually than a traditional Republican is with the lower propensity, less educated voter. I mean, like, everybody's always talked about how it's like the, non-college voter that goes for Trump. That these are voters that turned out for Trump in 2016. And part of what you saw were these surprises. I mean, do you remember how astonished they were as the returns were coming in Virginia in 2016? That's like one of the things I remember from that news coverage the most, is they kept going, oh my God, these rural counties. There is such high turnout in all these rural counties, and they're going like 70% to Trump. And they just couldn't believe that the number of votes was swamping the educated blue suburbs from Northern Virginia by Washington, D.C. It was incredible to them. So part of what we might be seeing right now, and this is where it becomes so important, the way polls have to, in their assumptions, be modeling turnout. And at the end of the day, that's somebody's opinion. Who do they think is going to turn out, right? And so that's where a lot of the variabilities and the polling errors come in with these things. And that's a big reason the polls might not be accurate. Polls frequently are not accurate by a point or two in any direction. At least. I mean, they were more off than that in 2020. It remains to be seen if they fix those issues. They could even be overcompensating for those issues this year. They could be looking at the numbers and saying like, oh yeah, Trump's going to turn out all these voters, but they're unenthused and they might not come out. But, this is one reason, though, that I say that looking at these early voting numbers, it's basically impossible to tell because you don't know. So there's some indication that Republicans are more heavily voting early and by mail than they were in 2020. I'm cautious about reading too much into that because not just for the reasons like Leslie was saying the other day that we shouldn't overassume and be overconfident, but
agreed.
But in addition to that, a lot more Democrats than Republicans voted early and by mail in 2020 because of COVID, and Republicans specifically planned on voting on Election Day. And there's still a lot of that in the Republican Party, but one of the things that the RNC learned from 2020 and 2022 was that we should not be encouraging our voters not to vote early and not to vote by mail. Totally. So I think some of that has dissipated. So some of that might cannibalize some Republican Election Day turnout too, right? Like because in 2020 and 2022, ours won Election Day turnout and not the early vote. So if they're coming out now, will they not win Election Day voting by as much? It's really hard to tell by this stuff. Like you just don't know. Ralston from like Ralston Reports in Nevada, who's like a big Nevada political reporter. He does a lot of early voting analysis, like by county and very specifically like these vote by mail ballots in Nevada. And his takeaway from what he's seen so far is that it is extremely tight. It's an extremely close race, which is like, once again, this doesn't tell anybody anything. And a lot of people yell at Nate Silver and 538 and all these places now on Twitter and saying, what's the point of you if you're going to intake all this data and just tell us that it's 50-50 and you can't tell?
Right, and I think that
I mean, like, I get it, but at the same time, like, I think it's very close to 50-50.
Which is why Kamala, immediately after Trump started saying no tax on tips. Right there. They thought to me.
But I think she's had worse numbers in Nevada lately. It's definitely that race has tightened up. That's become one of her not as good states.
Tell me what logo you see in this right here.
That would be the McDonald's logo.
McDonald's logo. This is breaking news 4 minutes ago. Deadly E. coli outbreak linked to McDonald's Quarter Pounders sickens 49 people in 10 states. This is from the CDC.
Did you also see the letter that Liz Warren wrote to McDonald's?
No.
So this is incredible because they're like legitimately pissed. And I saw an article that was like, McDonald's distances itself from Trump. Like they just put out a statement saying they don't endorse candidates and left it at that. They didn't like really distance themselves, but whatever. Anyway, they went out there like, so there's this CDC thing that they're going after McDonald's for this, but also, I'm going back and looking at this one. Basically, Liz Warren and all these people, they're going after McDonald's now for quote unquote price gouging.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So this is from Liz Warren in the Senate. Oh, it was taken down. But they released it earlier, but I guess they took it down from her Senate page because maybe they realized. But anyway, people have screenshots. October 22, 2024. Warren, Casey Wyden slam McDonald's for squeezing customers with excessive price increases. Corporate profits must not come at the expense of people's ability to put food on the table. Today, U.S. Senators Elizabeth Warren, Bob Casey, and Ron Wyden wrote to President and Chief Executive Officer of McDonald's, pushing for more information on McDonald's pricing decisions as fast food prices continue to rise. Like, they're literally going after McDonald's.
Wow. What freaking bastards. Talk about freaking retribution. Punitive freaking use of your office. Freaking monsters. I have more breaking news, Alice.
Okay, I'm ready.
Trump denigrates, this is the AP once again. Trump denigrates Harris as lazy, invoking a racist trope against black people.
Oh.
Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump on Tuesday called his Democratic opponent Kamala Harris lazy, criticizing the vice president with a word long used to demean black people in racist terms.
I think it's just also a word.
I know. It also just means lazy.
It describes people who don't like doing hard work.
Here's Trump, by the way, with the context. Who the hell takes off when you have 14 days left, Trump said at a campaign event in Doral, Florida. She's lazy. She's lazy as hell. So in other words, he was using it because she took a day off today.
Yeah, she's doing prep for like TV interviews that she's doing. By the way, also breaking news, Donald Trump supposedly going on Rogan on Friday.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that's
good. That'll be interesting because they kind of were having a little bit of a spat earlier, like where, Rogan was saying he didn't want to have Trump on. Like, I don't think he wants to be known as a Trumpy guy.
No.
So I think he'll kind of be, Rogan's not necessarily, like, tough on anybody exactly. Like, he's not antagonistic, but he does, like, ask people hard questions.
Well, yes, but at the same time, he does ask people hard questions. He also Googles stuff right in front of you with Jamie pulling up stuff, conspiracy stuff. Trump will play along with that all day long.
Yeah, and Joe Rogan also listens to the answers.
Yes.
Like, he asks tough questions, but he's not going to be swayed. They have all the time in the world. If you're on Rogan,
yes,
you can sit there all day and you can answer the long questions, and he'll listen to your answers and ask more questions, and he'll really actually respond to you, which I think is a good format for Trump, to be honest, because he tends to meander a little bit.
Oh yeah, plus,
and he's more likable when he's like that.
And also, much like with all how the stuff worked at McDonald's, Trump knows Rogan's huge. He wants to know how he does it.
Right.
He's going to want to reverse engineer it for the Trump family.
They also like UFC, both of them.
They also have a very close friend in Alex Jones.
And RFK Jr.
Right.
They're both buddies.
So in that sense, like Trump has bona fides. Trump likes and embraces the forbidden people, the people you're not allowed to like and embrace. Trump doesn't care. He's going there. He embraces the forbidden people. And so does Rogan. It's always been something strong about Rogan, that he didn't care. He used to be friends with Alex Jones. He's friends with him now. Rogan has also done some personal debunking of Trump stuff. Just attacks against Trump, which is probably not even an endeavor to salvage Trump's reputation.
Oh yeah, no,
but he's just big into conspiracy stuff. And Rogan is big into the establishment says this. They've been effing with us the whole time.
Right.
And obviously, you look at Trump. Trump is not the establishment in this situation. They're trying to put him in jail, and somebody else is trying to kill him. So I look forward to
the Iranians, among others, who, by the way, it turns out this Biden and Harris administration person who leaked all the details of this Israeli attack to the Iranian regime had already had problems with her contacts with the Iranian regime a year ago, and people in the Senate asked to have her security clearances taken away, and her security clearances were not taken away. So there you go. That's where the Biden administration is, though, is they don't care about ties to Iran.
No. No,
or presumably to China or Russia or any other place either.
Right. No.
I assume all these places have spies in our government.
I want to hit one more thing before we have to transition. Along the lines of the media now, like doing this, she calls her racist, which is a lazy, which is a racist thing. And
yeah,
a lot of the media very upset. Talking about McDonald's having problems with this franchise. Had a health concern with her, and all this stuff, which to me signifies that there's a problem. Obviously, they're worried going into this thing. Well, one of the swing and misses that they did is they convinced her not to do the Al Smith dinner. And I think that was terrible. Terrible. Because one talent or power that she seems to have is to be able to stand next to Donald Trump on stage and not really be fazed and manage to keep it together.
Right.
So you have her standing there and him calling her stupid and low IQ, and if she remains pretty and charming, that would have been a total optics win for her. But they didn't do it. They didn't do it. It was an F up. These people did it to themselves.
No, she comes off worse when she's on stage with anyone else other than Trump.
Yes.
The only time she's looked good this entire campaign was when she was on a stage with Trump.
Right. And this time, she at the Al Smith dinner, they would have had jokes written down and, on-point stuff. She wouldn't have had to go to Venn diagrams or anything.
She could have just read it out loud.
But anyway, I think that the left saw that and he said, oh, my goodness, this is not good. Listen how freaking bitchy the NPR people are. Have you heard this already?
Mm-mm.
This is the NPR wrap-up of the Al Smith dinner. It is so bitchy.
Former President Trump spoke at the Al Smith dinner in New York City Thursday night, a dinner to raise money for Catholic charities and often a regular stop every election cycle for political candidates.
Tradition holds that I'm supposed to tell a few self-deprecating jokes this evening. So here it goes. Nope, I've got nothing.
Well, he did have one line about how happy he was to appear in New York without a subpoena. NPR senior editor, correspondent Ron Elvin joins us now. Ron, thanks for being with us.
Good to be with you, Scott.
Maybe not many self-deprecating jokes, but Donald Trump made several personal and, in a couple of instances, salacious japes. Not sure they can be called jokes.
No.
In front of the Cardinal and aimed at his political opponents. Did his speech go, I have to say, beyond the bounds of decency? And what does that say about political discourse these days?
It says we're still very much in the age of Trump.
So the guy goes on, etc. He just gets more. First of all, you're an effete a-hole if you use the term jape in any context.
Right.
Japes. I don't think there were jokes. Sadly, we used to have the Al Smith dinner, but he did it right there with the Cardinal. Now, I'm sure NPR has been wonderful to the Catholic Church. No doubt. No doubt. And just the disappointment with the NPR voices and all the money they get, etc. It's just freaking ridiculous. Should we do the chat? I'm sorry, guys. We have to go pick up our daughter, Dotter.
Yeah, I do just want to say, too, though, that this New York Times story from a day ago that I tweeted about also, that they have in this as well, whether a presidential candidate actually flipped burgers as a college student is a far less serious allegation, of course, but Mr. Trump's seeding of doubts about Miss Harris's story, while insidious and outside the lines of traditional fair play in politics, advances his goal of portraying Miss Harris as a fraud. It exploits the fact her story is not as well known or well documented at this stage of the campaign than most presidential nominees, and it gives voters who may already harbor doubts about her an invitation to dismiss her and doubt what she says. So, that saying that you don't think Kamala Harris worked at McDonald's because she can produce zero proof that she worked at McDonald's, other than the fact that she says so, saying that is outside the bounds of traditional fair play. Do they think that we're, like, we all have amnesia? Do they remember the things that they said about, like, Mitt Romney and Brett Kavanaugh and any of these people? Like, do they think we forgot all that?
I don't think. I think that
like we ran with all the like decent, good Republicans, right? We've been there, done that.
I think they think...
And they made things up whole cloth about all of them, like insane things. But Trump says he doesn't think Kamala worked at McDonald's, and that's outside the bounds of fair play.
Yes.
This goes way... And it reminded me of what he said in there, like, way beyond the pit. This is so outside the bounds.
That is a pretty dark jape, I must say.
I mean, like, have they...
He called her lazy. Oh, my goodness.
So Steve from Merrimack in the chat says Trump needs to dial back his appearances. He thinks it's diminishing returns. And Dave from Florida disagrees that... he says he not necessarily just needs to pick his spots, which Steve from Merrimack gives a thumbs up to. So,
I mean, on Rogan, you can create new voters.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
And he's been doing that. He's been creating new voters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I also don't think if we look back and Trump wins this thing, you're going to look back at Barack Obama yelling at black men about, so I guess you guys like beating women, huh? That's what you like?
I mean, or even like all the campaign choices seem, and of course, if she wins, then, we won't be looking back at this stuff because that's how this works. But like the Lizzo stuff in Detroit that we didn't even touch on. I mean, not just saying like we should make all our politics like Detroit, but the sort of sashaying onto her private jet as she tells us we're going to make all of America like Detroit. It just like, this is the campaign that you're running to appeal to the last 17 swing voters in America.
Yeah. It's also, as somebody who's been fat and not fat now for 30 years.
She has lost weight.
I understand. Slow your roll when you lose a few pounds, because it's fleeting. Okay, it's coming back, Lizzo. All right. So ask Oprah or Tom Shattuck, as a matter of fact. Okay, ready?
I'm ready. Chelsea Fire Wicked Hot Sauce brings us the Chelsea Fire Wicked Hotline.
Oh, here we go.
Habibis.
Hey.
I was very entertained by the beta male segment of your Sunday show. I have a message for Alice about this. I saw that dude on Twitter, Alice, that local dude that you were talking about. I did not know that he was some sort of stalker at the time that I saw that. But I just need to remind you, say the word, sister. Say the word.
I mean, I know.
Because you and I both know that I am personal friends with the most prolific and obnoxious shit posters in conservative Twitter. I will be more than happy to introduce them to your creepy ass neighbor over there. Say the word. Love you. Bye.
There you go. Thank you, Leslie.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the support. I mean, I really don't care. Like I said, he's muted. I haven't seen one of his tweets now since any of that happened.
He's tweeting, I guarantee you.
I know, I'm sure. He's tweeting by himself in the void. I really could care less. It's just interesting to me sometimes, how these people act. When they'll sit here and tell you what a big feminist they are and how much they love women, and then they turn into a weird, creepy, angry Googler of you and your life and where everyone you know works the second you
I like it when they find a
them.
picture of you and say, "This you?" Oh.
You ever see those videos of a football player who's about to score and he lets his arm drop and the ball falls out of his hand before he even gets past the goal line?
Or gets stripped,
He's so alone and he thinks he has it and he just doesn't. And there are some Olympic videos, the same thing, where somebody's running so far ahead. They think they've got it. They get their hands in the air and someone just completely passes them. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Republicans or people who want to vote for Trump, don't do that.
Here we go. Echoing Leslie.
Get out. Make sure you vote. I already mailed in my vote. I don't know where it went, but the state has it somewhere, probably in a room.
Shredder.
They put that one right there, Shredder. Yep.
Don't do that. You want to swamp the vote with the numbers, you have to go and vote.
Yep.
Do it.
Here.
Show up, vote. Very important.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Dr. Cheswick is always a home run hitter, but no message. His message today about Pete Buttigieg, Gay Tim, and Slappy had me on the floor. in reading the cast of La Cage aux Folles out loud. That was fantastic. I laughed for a while about that one. But the reason I'm going is the Cuck of the Year award.
Yes.
Whatever. My nomination is Mark Cuban.
Hmm.
This guy, he's leaving Shark Tank. He's sporting the worst pair of frames since Charles Nelson Riley.
Why do they all
And
get glasses?
hello.
Yeah.
Why do they
He's the
all
worst
get
Charles
glasses
Nelson
when
Riley.
they do
Hold
that?
on.
Okay, sorry.
Sporting
Sorry, Steve.
the worst pair of frames since Charles Nelson Riley, and hello, and he's transitioning into Rachel Maddow, as a lot of people have observed. But these appearances he's making, does he actually think he's effective? Like his incredibly unfunny appearance on the unfunniest show on television, Colbert, his appearance in the
Yeah, that was
panel
rough.
with Bill Maher. It's just he's terrible. He comes across like a dummy, and I know he's not a dummy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe he is. Maybe he just got lucky, but I don't know. He's a if he's not a full cuck yet, he's a burgeoning cuck.
Yeah. Well, I see. I don't believe that he believes much of what he's saying. I think he sees a void, an opportunity to occupy a space on the left that Trump occupied or occupies on the right.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's talented enough to do it and to build his brand, build a populist movement around him, and he's hoping to catch fire. I don't think he has it. I'm sure in doing business stuff that he's smart, but he doesn't. When on Rogan, he was just entirely not smart.
He must be smart for something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I don't know. One of my favorite parts of that Silicon Valley show that we watched for a while was the guy who was kind of a loose takeoff on Mark Cuban.
Is that the psychotic guy?
The guy who was obsessed with being a billionaire and came out with like the Tres Comas.
The vodka?
It must have been a tequila, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, of course.
But he had the Tres Comas tequila and was always driving a fancy car and stuff. Yeah.
I'm not sure if either of yous twos ever noticed when somebody gets canceled that they either do one or two routes. Either they're like pathetically groveling, oh please please forgive me for what I said or done, oh gosh, or they do the other where they double down. They go, yeah, I said it, so, and your point is? That leads me to this, that me and my buddy have a bet. I bet that Tom's not going to do this, and then he bet that he is. And it is that he's going to do an episode of the Burn Barrel in blackface. I don't think Tom's going to do that.
I don't think Tom's
That'd be pretty wild, though.
That's another trope, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't. Well, first of all, I don't like face paint. I don't like any. That's why I keep wiping my face. I have this imagining feeling that like glands are secreting. It's not my thing. You sounded like when you were saying please, please. You sounded like Adam Curry from the No Agenda podcast.
Volume 2 of the Steve from Merrimack Chat review, while also respecting Crocodile Dundee in Australia, who believes that I'm a Democrat. So on Sunday night's show, Steve mentioned that he was away for a few days last week.
Yes.
He reminds me of those people on Facebook that love to post every meal that they eat because people really want to know what they're having for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Sarcasm.
I mean, nobody in the live chat, nobody in the chat, who I know us Democrats like to call basket of deplorables, were actually looking for Steve. So why does he mention that? The answer is because he's a narcissist and he's an egomaniac who thinks that people actually cared that he wasn't around.
I cared that he wasn't around. I hate to tell you, Stephen Gloss, I did care that he wasn't around. I was looking for him for the night I went out to the New Old Oak as well, Alice. And it was mistakenly somehow ended up with cracked ribs somehow, which is a story we'll go into sometime later.
Did we ever find the hill?
Then his messages are always his take on everything.
Yes.
And a lot of which are outdated.
No.
Like the Brett Baer Kamala stuff.
Oh, no. He said that he had just gotten back and he was catching up.
He just has to give his spin on it because he's the keeper of the chat. He's on guard. So if he doesn't get to say something about it, then nobody else can comment. And if you realize there was so much jealousy with the back to school stuff, what Tom did was brilliant.
Thank you.
It was something that Steve from Merrimack could never come up with.
You know what? I will take that because it compliments me, and I'll agree with you.
And the follow-ups by Cheswick and Leslie were perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But this narcissist couldn't let them enjoy the spotlight. He couldn't let them encapsulate it. He had to give his
Steve's doing divide and conquer mind games right now.
Yeah, he's trying to get back on.
It might work.
Own spin on it, which is just completely nauseating. And I can't believe that more people are not seeing this. But you know what? I have to be a Democrat here, right? I have to be what Crocodile Dundee thinks I am. So, you know, look at the leader of the Republican Party. He's a narcissist. He's an egomaniac. And, you know, Steve from Merrimack would walk on water for him. So I guess they are two peas in a pod. Anyway, that's Volume 2, and I can't wait for Volume 3.
Oh, my goodness. My goodness. You know, we should probably...
Does Crocodile Dundee refer to Menners, or does it refer to...
Jamie maybe?
Or is Jackson the third?
But Jackson doesn't... Yeah.
So it's Jamie who left us a message. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So.
So is
Volume
it Crocodile Dundee refers to Jamie?
We can make Volume 3 under 2 minutes. I will ask that. Sal has to go.
Habibis, Les again.
Hi, Les.
All right.
This one's for Tom regarding the Sunday beta mail episode and bringing in a fun recurring topic on the Burn Barrel podcast, which is parking lots and supermarkets. The show made me reminisce back to about 10 years ago. A friend of mine in New Jersey and I would occasionally send each other text messages because we would be in a parking lot and see somebody parking completely obnoxiously over the line or otherwise just doing an offensive parking job. And we would send each other the photo of the vehicle with the caption, "Cuck parking."
Ooh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
I think we ought to reinstate that term. Love you. Bye.
Thank you so much. My goodness.
I think we should use it
I
more.
don't know if this happens to you whenever you're on X, but somebody you follow retweets some shocking video,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, why? Why would you do that? This video is a woman and a horse. And I'm just like, I don't know who I feel more sorry for, the woman or the horse in that situation.
There's a lot of that on X these days, by the way.
I must follow the wrong account.
Oh, you don't use the search words I use, I think.
I don't think so. My For You tab does not have that.
Yeah.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
Kamala, at least theoretically, trying to distance herself, I guess, from Joe Biden. I'm not Joe Biden. But the more we find out, she really is Joe Biden.
She is.
A, she lied about working somewhere that she clearly never worked at.
Yeah.
Great point.
B, she's totally incompetent at her current job and the job she's trying to get.
Mm-hmm.
C, she's a serial plagiarist, just like Joe.
Oh, that's a great
I'm
point.
starting to think everyone's a plagiarist.
And we don't know anything about her academic records, but who wants to venture a guess that she graduated ass last from college and almost ass last from law school?
And we're thinking there's no more plagiarism there?
How many times did she have to pass the bar? I mean, these two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
This is the greatest VP and president duo in history.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Well, there's been some like memes around that say like Obama wanted to pick a VP dumber than him, and Biden wanted to pick a VP dumber than him, and Kamala wanted to pick a VP dumber than her, and that's how we ended up with Tim Walz.
I love it.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. I encourage everybody to leave chat messages. Everyone is welcome. All the Steves that there are. I enjoy all the messages. That's at burnbarrelpodcast.com. Like I said, you can join the Patreon at patreon.com/burnbarrel. There's the spot to listen to the show live, watch it live, chat live every day. There's also like some extra content each week and an ad-free RSS feed. See you guys tomorrow.
C'est la vie.